Hi, Caroline. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Caroline. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Are you okay? Are you well?
Hello.
Yes, are you well?
Yes.
Right. Right. I think we're gonna start even if there are no other people. Let's just go through this and then quickly and put some work for you so that you can be able to undertake. This is the area that we have not discussed. The only discussion we had was the presentation in class last semester. And I think it's time we look at it into some few details, okay? It's group formation. That is the topic that we want to look at is known as group formation. And key areas that we need to take a look at relate to the following. So the group formation relate to finding out the meaning of group, what influences group formation, stages in group formation, and of course why people join groups. I think that one will be able to look at it as a discussion, especially if others join us. So I think we have also looked at this group thing beforehand in management. It's more or less the same thing. So not so much differences. So perhaps what we're gonna look at is a few things relating to these formal and informal groups, group formation, and such like. So we can say that there are two types of groups that exist. We have formal and informal group. We have formal and informal groups. Informal groups are normally started by, we can say by accident, because there is no plan to come up with a group like that, but it just come by the fact that people interact together Like in a class situation, you can form an informal group. In a work situation, a work environment, people do form informal groups, not consciously, but they just find themselves aligned to have common or a drive that make them want to stay together. So in many cases, we have those groups in organizations. Sometimes they are driven by a purpose or by a common goal or a common issue that affect them. But what happens is that they don't have a guideline to drive or to govern or to determine how they relate to each other. Unlike in a formal organization where there are rules or regulations that sustain the group, informal groups don't have specific rules or specific guidelines to govern the relationship. Or even if they are there, then it is not mandatory that members have to stick to them. So just as we had in our class discussion, there are so much elaborate points that the presenters did, and I believe we still remember. There are certain functions, or what we can also say are advantages of informal groups, is that they assist and maintain or strengthen the work group. People who are working together, those informal arrangements tend to make them much more cohesive, much more committed to each other's cause. So they don't want to have to upset the members of such particular groups, but they want to maintain, to ensure the group is cohesive. Then, of course, it makes members secure, because if you, for example, you have a group of friends who you value and they value you tend to be a little bit more comfortable, more secure, more confident, and you feel a sense of belonging in that particular group. You don't feel that you are an outcast. You feel that you are part and parcel of such a group. Then, of course, such informal groups tend to listen much to people's individual problem or personal problems. And many a times you see such groups stand with one another, especially when one of the members has a mishap or a misfortune or something that they feel is too heavy for them. They can share with such a group member, and it gets solved, or it gets tackled in a way that will satisfy the members. Ordinarily, again, it helps member, or it acts as a reference point to members. So members tend to view the group as the one that, or guide them, give them a guideline or character guidelines, like you can be referred to, why don't you behave like so and so of this particular group? For you to be able to fit in with us, there are certain attributes that one should possess, or way of behavior that one needs to take into consideration. Then we have, you realize also that organizations' management also benefit greatly from such informal groups, because whenever the informal group member or the organization want to implement some of its policies, for those policies to be successfully implemented, then organizations tend to involve the informal group leaders because they have a powerful influence on the members that follow such a group. So if organizations or the leadership in organizations that are really committed to progress of that firm would recognize and value the input of informal groups, because these informal groups, they have the potential to cause the organization to prosper, or sometimes can cause it to fail in a way that curtails its activities. You realize that many a times it's the informal groups that tend to organize strikes or a go slow, a go slow in an organization, or laying down of tools, for example. You find that that insight or that feeling of rebellion is actually fomented within the informal group, or the picketing, the cry for justice, or the cry for rights and of members is normally start from within the informal groups, and then it spread all the way, and it manifests itself when the leadership of the informal groups organize people and say that we are now no longer going to do this unless management commit to do a specific thing. Now, there are some problems or challenges that informal groups may have, or you can call them disadvantages. One of the disadvantages, we can see that there are mixed abilities and different backgrounds from members. This makes it a little bit less cohesive, and sometimes because of the differences, sometimes it may lead to lack of understanding, or members may feel that some of their rights or some of their ideals are not well represented because of maybe their background, their abilities, and such like. So that you find that instead of having a united informal group, you have groups that are fragmented based on various ideals. Like can talk about those who have degree, those who are diploma, those who are living in a specific neighborhood, those who undertake a certain role in the organization. So you find that might bring bad blood or lack of cohesion. Now that happens also because there are no formal structure to help governing such informal groups. Because you don't have regulation, you don't have laws, you don't have that members need to adhere to this kind of regulations. Now, just as we said, there sometimes can lead to lack of cohesion. Of course, there is a problem of conformity. Now, this problem of conformity is contributed to by the differences in backgrounds and abilities. Now, another thing about informal groups is that, just as I said, that if management do not recognize or work with them, they can cause problems, especially to running the organization, especially if they feel that their needs are not well represented. So they can even incite members to lay down their tools. Now, another thing about informal group, because of lack of structure, sometimes it's not easy to put all the heads together or to make it run effectively, because you are working with people who do not have rules to regulate their behavior. So in many cases, it might be a challenge when, especially when the togetherness is required. Let's look at informal groups. Now, informal groups are created by management, and they contain a specific policy or statement of objectives, or they are established for a purpose. For example, departments. Departments are actually formal grouping, especially we talk about grouping of jobs in organization design. We may have committees that handle or are appointed to deal with a specific issue. You find maybe a group, maybe a brainstorming group that is appointed to undertake a particular project. Those are formal groups. So such groups have a mandate and a structure, and that guide their behavior. And then, of course, their reporting relationship is well established. You find that such formal groups will have one appointed to lead the group, and other roles, the members will definitely know and understand the roles that they're supposed to play as far as being membership of that group is concerned. Now, the benefits of formal groups is that they assist in effective management of work, like make management easier, because their roles are assigned and members have got specific or specialized roles to play. So you can ask them or require them to account for their responsibilities. Then, of course, they help implement policies and decisions of the organization. So it's much more easier for management to run a firm when there are groups down below who are have bought onto the objective of the firm and are implementing it. In fact, policies and decisions are implemented at the lower level of management, at this operational or at the functional level. That is where implementation takes place, and by departments. Like, for example, talk about an institution like ZTEC, for example. What we are doing right now is implementing the policy of the top management. So when a lecturer goes to class, when students attend and present themselves, there is implementation of a policy to offer training services. So in most cases, that is done by formal organization. Of course, another key advantage is that it assists in formation of organizational objectives. Like, remember when we talk of management by objectives, where each individual and manager formulate their objectives, even top management can be able to come up with objectives, because of course the firm is established on objectives. It assists in that. Then, of course, it helps. There are structures that deal with issues that affect organization. For example, conflict issues, for example, resource distribution, for example, appointments and dismissal and what have you, and any other interaction within the organization and with the outside world, so that those issues can be dealt with effectively by an informal or by a formal group or a formal department. Now, what are the problems with this formal arrangement? One major disadvantage is it is costly to maintain, because these departments and the roles that are created are essentially jobs. For example, if a firm decides to use staff from different departments or interdepartmental staff, especially maybe when working on a project, all these members will get maybe a sitting allowance in addition to what they normally get as salaries or pay in order to participate in those projects. So that is something that can be costly. Or if, for example, if you come up with a committee to organize events in organization, there's something that must be given them as a reward or compensation. Sometimes there may be infighting and division among members, especially if those positions are elective. You know, people would connive, fight here, fight there, to get access to the power that comes with it, because you realize that most formal groups come with power and authority because they are formal offices, and those formal offices sometimes attract fighting to be able to gain those positions because of the resources that are attached to those particular roles. Of course, another thing, it causes or it leads to slow decision making. You find that if you set a committee to deal with an issue, then that committee will seek opinions from different sources, and then they end up taking time to make decisions, and this can be detrimental or can waste resources. Like maybe they have a whole week just sitting trying to come up with a decision. Huh? You say you can't hear. Huh?
You are now unmuted. Now I can hear. I've logged out and logged in. Now I can hear. Perfect.
All right. Yes, where did you lose me? Disadvantages? Did you lose me at disadvantages or at advantages? But I think they are straightforward. You can see them. Let's look at group formation. Group formation. Before we look at the process of forming groups, first and foremost, let's take a look at factors that influence group formation. Factors that influence group formation. One is how close people are to one another. How close people are to one another. Or we call it physical proximity. People who are close together, they tend to find it much more easier to work with one another. So you often find that within no minute or within no time, they have started going for lunch together. They started living for home together. They go take tea together. They share this, they share that. They start talking politics and issues in life. And before you know it, they are friends. And then if more people realize how important that friendship is, you find that you get 1 member, 2 member, 3 member, and before long, there's quite a huge group that are loosely connected just because of working in the same department or in the same workstation. Common values is another factor, or interest. People who share common interest tend to have something that they can be able to value in each other. For example, those who love maybe music or sports or certain activities, they tend to blend together because they can talk about that interesting situation or issue. Institutional background is where people went to study in the early life. For example, perhaps let's say, for example, you join a college and you find someone that you are with in high school. You find it much more easier to work with them. You find it much more easier to befriend them. So in most cases, you realize that it's easier to form groups. Then, of course, people who have grown together, people who have similar age, you find that they appeal to one another. They tend to want to stick together because of same age group. They do the same things. Those things they value are more or less the same. Similar jobs and professions. Yes, most friends come from those who are doing the same kind of job. That's why I believe many of your friends, Caroline, are people of your course. As much as you may have friends in people doing different courses, but I believe you are much more freer with those people of the same profession because you interact with them more often than not. Let's look at psychological reason. On the other hand, is where somebody requires to have a self-esteem issue dealt with. For example, they want that company to massage their ego, to show that they also are part of a group, that they are not a lone ranger, so that they feel the belongingness, they need to be part of the group. Very important. That causes people to want to join specific groups. Lastly, we talk about common threats. If, for example, people share in a common issue that affects them, then they would easily congregate together because they are sharing on a commonality that affects them, that cause them to feel threatened in a way. So being in a group bring them to a point where they can give each other support, or they can be able to deal with it. They form a joint front to fight a common enemy. So you find that people who have had experiences in life, they tend to identify with those who have had similar experiences. And you might find that they have created a group, or they come together because they are speaking from the same plate. They are talking from the same background, the threats that they ever faced in life, the experiences that they had, they can be able to understand each other well. Let's look at stages in group formation. Stage one is stages in group formation is forming. So stage one is the stage where the group is formed, called group formation. Now, because members feel there is something that is common to them, they come to a point where they feel that there's a commonality or something that they share that justify their being together. Something they share that justify their being together. So you find that the group is formed. The forming stage, with that commonality, with feeling of sharing something that each other values, it leads to the group coming into place, or the group arising. So you might ask yourself, what are the factors that contribute to group formation or the forming stage? What are the factors that bring people together so that they can congregate together, so that they can be able to form together, begin to work together? The second stage is known as the storming stage. Storming is where conflict arises between or among the members. Conflict is normally marked by the fact that there are differences among individuals. Different people have got different levels of development. They have different personalities. There are those who are aggressive. There are those who want positions. There are those who want to take the leadership roles. So they try to fight their ways onto the top of that informal group, or to the top of that particular group. So in this case, you find that differences arise. Sometimes it brings in fighting and such like disagreements. When maybe some members want to dominate others, so you find that you realize that this could cause conflict. So that's what is called the storming stage. Step number 3 or stage number 3 is norming. Norming stage is where members begin to accept each other. So they begin to realize that the group exists for the betterment of everyone, that each and every member has a role to play, even if one has a position or is the leader, but that leadership is in the interests of the group members. So a lot of cohesiveness is built within. So these are people sacrifice their ambition for the sake of the coexistence of the group, or for the sake of solidarity with the group. So that is something that is very key, very essential, that must be taken into consideration. Step number 4, this is where the group now put their best effort towards achieving the objectives that they set out to do in the first place. So the focus is on putting together their ideas, their roles, to drive home the objectives that they set out to do in the first place. So everyone will take their role and play it to perfection. Everyone will be responsible for their part of the bargain so that they can get a result that they are looking for. So in most cases, you find that this is a very important stage in the group, because it deals with the implementation of the group's ideals, group's objectives, group's purpose. It comes in, even if it is a formal group, for example, that is where the actual work is being done. It's being put to activity. So at this stage, roles would be performed. People will be doing what they are supposed to do. The last stage, known as adjourning stage, happens when the group has completed the task or the purpose for which it existed. For example, if it's a group that was formed for a specific purpose and the purpose has been accomplished, then of course it can be disbanded, or the group ceases to exist. So what may lead to group disbandment? Group can be disbanded when it has completed its purpose. It can also cease to exist when maybe irreconcilable differences emerge from members, or when members depart to other places. The members are physically separated from each other. When members are physically separated from each other, then to a point where the group can no longer be cohesive, because you realize that one of the reason or the factor that influenced group formation was proximity to one another, physical proximity. If members maybe depart and move to other places, then you realize that that group can no longer exist. Are we together?
We're now unmuted. Yes.
Oh, very good.
You are now muted. You are now unmuted.
Now, something else that relates to group that also we need to look at is known as group cohesiveness. Group cohesiveness refers to where members are ready and willing to work with one another, support the cause, and continue in solidarity. Where members want to work with one another, support the cause, and maintain solidarity with each other. So how can or what factors enhance group cohesiveness or group togetherness? What factors influence group cohesiveness or group togetherness? What makes the members gel together so that they can be able to work with commitment and dedication to each other? One, through friendship atmosphere, where each member or each group member deal with the other as a friend. When the environment or the condition where each member deal with the other as a friend can contribute to group cohesion. Two, when there is similarity among the members, just as we said, people who have the same experience or they share in an experience, they tend to gel together more than those who have differences. The similarity in group enhances group cohesiveness. Interdependence among members also is key, very important, because members realize that they cannot do without the other. They cannot do without each other. So in most cases, they want to maintain that closeness to one another so that they can get benefit, they can generate benefit from each other. Just like you find that most microfinance groups, or what we call the chamas. Chamas members tend to stay together or to stick with one another because of that common objective and interdependence, because they realize that they can only gain support or attain progress when they stick with one another. So then they get committed towards that particular goal. So that is very, very important. And one thing that you realize with the chamas, for example, is that there is a lot of similarity among members. You find that they congregate as people with similar background, similar income level. They stay even in similar neighborhoods because of many a times you realize that is some of the factors that make chamas cohesive and successful is because of the friendly atmosphere, similarity among members, and the sense of interdependence. Then, of course, another key factor is attractive goals, goals that are of value, that you look at them, you realize that this goal provide values to enhance the status of members. In many cases, such groups tend to last. They tend to go for a long time. They tend to remain. Some of them have grown to become huge corporations because the goals were attractive and members were committed and dedicated towards that purpose. So, like most saving groups, you told you can save and you get this amount of loan over and above what you have saved. That is a very attractive goal. And of course, another key factor, small group size. Group size is very important. Smaller groups tend to be much more cohesive than larger groups. Smaller groups tend to stick together and to last and to have a common purpose, because members are able to interact with one another. They share common things. They can be able to, it's not far-fetched, it's not far removed. So you find that the leadership are close to members, and there's a lot more transparency with smaller groups, and much more accountability with smaller groups than with large, huge groups. Of course, just like we had had previously, a common threatening environment can also make group much more cohesive. When, for example, you realize that, let's say, for example, an employer might reprimand some of the members. Then you take that issue to your group, like trade unions, for example. They tend to be compact and united, and they argue in one voice just because there's a common threatening employer, for example. So you find that when there is an issue that might be a threat to the members tend to gel together because they believe that the common objective of fighting that threat is in their unity. So their unity will enable them to deal or to fight that threat that might affect any member. So what are the benefits of group cohesiveness? What are the benefits of group? What are some of the benefits that accrue to a group that work together, that are united together, that are given to support each other? Yes, one advantage is it leads to better group interaction. So when things are transparent, when there is friendly atmosphere, people value each other and they can share openly and without hiding or performing underhand deals. So you tend that they are driven because of the fact that there is better atmosphere. Then it reduces conflict among members. When there is cohesion, conflict is reduced. Then there's less, or there is greater interpersonal coordination. There is greater interpersonal coordination. They can allocate each other duties, they can play their roles, and in this they make it possible for each other to work effectively. Of course, very important. That is why the members come together, because what they would not have done on their own, they can be able to achieve working together. That is what is called the synergy. The synergy that is created when people come to work together. Synergy means synchronized energy. So you find that bringing or coming together to create a group, to form a group, allow them to be able to achieve what they would otherwise not achieve if they worked on their own. Then there is a sense of belonging. That is also another advantage. There's a sense of belonging that causes the members to believe that this group has got their best interests at heart. So being members in a cohesive group tend to make members feel that they belong, and that brings satisfaction. That brings satisfaction in a way that is not just ordinary. Now, do you think there are challenges of group cohesiveness? What do you think? Do you think there are disadvantages of group cohesiveness? Yes, what are some of the disadvantages? When a group is cohesive for a wrong purpose, when a group is cohesive, let me hear from your contribution. Jane Sarah, welcome. So sometimes there may be challenges or that is associated with group cohesion. And such disadvantages comes whereby they are united for the wrong reason. Or we can say if members are known to work together effectively, then sometimes you find that there is possibility of maybe at one point a disagreement may arise and it can cause a lot of drama. Again, sometimes it can lead to unhealthy competition, or it gives rise to conflict. Or if they are united together, they might resist change that would have been better or good for the organization. If, for example, people are united to resist a change, when the change would have been good, like, for example, sometimes you see the relationship between the government and the teachers' union. You have seen the drama play on media or in our nation, for example. Sometimes cohesion may cause problem, that a unity may be a disadvantage. Sometimes remember schools were closed for several months because teachers were united in a fight but to the detriment of another group in society. So sometimes cohesion can have its disadvantages. Now, there's something else that is important as far as group is concerned, is decision making of a group. Group decision making. Group decision making, for example, you have committees. Committees normally sit for the purpose of making a decision or dealing with a project. So you find that it is important. Now, there are some benefits that of making decisions using a particular group. So this is still part of group issues. Just like committees. So what are the advantages of group decision making? As I'm showing you right now, is that it can make coordination of work easy because you find that different members of the group might be assigned duties so that it makes, because they understand the implication of the decision and they are part of it and they're involved in it, they'll be much more handy to help in implementation. Yes, so you use a team to make decision of an issue. They can allocate each other duties which many a times you find that members get to perform willingly. Then, of course, communication level is high because a committee or a group will communicate at the same level, it's not a message that was gotten from somebody delivered to a second, to a third and a fourth person, The communication is just within among themselves, and they can be able to pass the message, and every member got the message instantly. Then greater number of alternatives will be presented. That is very key. In most cases, the quality of decision may be improved because members have the opportunity to make suggestions and to present their opinions. And in many cases, like for example, a focus group, in most cases, they have a list of things that they want to do, or contribution or opinions from members, and then from that long list they can select the most viable ones, the most feasible ones. Those are the ones that will be implemented, so they get different alternatives. And of course, more information would be processed of an issue such that at the end of the day, a better and much more refined decision could be made. And very important is our way of delegation. It's a very important way of delegation. Six, it serves, not saves. It serves as a training ground. So that one is changed. It serves, not saves. It serves as a training ground. This one is, it serves, not saves. It serves as a training ground because members can learn from each other. So the right word is here, serves. Serves as a training ground. Then, of course, it's a morale booster. So if you ask, what are the benefits of committee decision making? Committee is one of group decision making in organization. What are the benefits or the advantages of committee decision making? Then you can talk about ease of coordination, communication, number of alternatives, more information is processed, it can contribute to unity or distribute authority, improve morale. All those you can be able to say when talking about committee decision making or a project team decision making. Are we together? Now, what are the disadvantages? What are the disadvantages? What are the disadvantages? Now, how does it take a long time? How is it time consuming? Can I hear your debate? Let me hear you debating on these points. It can be time consuming. Some members can dominate. It may be expensive to manage a group. Risky decisions can be taken by members because nobody will be held responsible. And then it may lead to premature decisions being implemented. Now, I want you to debate about those 5 disadvantages. I want you to debate about those 5 disadvantages. What do you think? Yes, what do you think? Let me hear your contributions.
Hello.
Yes.
The first point, the time consuming.
Yeah.
I think because in the group, each member gives his or her opinion. Then afterwards, they have to again discuss those opinions. They might agree or disagree. So a lot of time is taken before they get to the main decision.
Yeah, very good. Very good. That's actually true. Yeah. Each member has to have their opinion, they debate on them. And this really takes a lot of time. It has really wasted time of many committees out there. And that's a good one. That's a beautiful point. Yes, let's hear from Caroline. Maybe you can take another point there and tell us how it can affect. Yes, Caroline, we are waiting for your input. Mm-hmm. Oh, Caroline was gone long time ago. Yes, look at this question. The challenges associated with committee decision making are those disadvantages of group that we've just highlighted, okay? So we can talk of those issues as the key issues that may affect group decision making. Yeah. Yes. Now, why do you think people join groups? Let me throw this one. I promise to throw it onto you. Discussion. Why do you think people join groups? Why do people join groups? Why do people join groups? Another question here. Why do people join groups? Yes, for companionship, that is good. For companionship, social, that is social need. People form groups because they require that social fabric where they can identify themselves as belonging to it. Yes, that is also good, a sense of belonging. People want a sense of belonging. People want a sense of belonging can join groups. Yeah, very good. People get informed. People can get information. That is true. Of course, for security reasons, secure environment. Yes.
Hello. So I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Is companionship and identity the same?
Companionship and what?
Identity.
It can be, it cannot be. It may be different, it may be the same, but depending on how you explain them. Companionship, you want a company, a social fabric where people, you belong to a certain group. Identity also as a way to keep. I'm saying identity gives someone, you want to identify with a particular group because of maybe the title of the group member, or they are known as, for example, you want to be known as one of the top politicians. That is identity. You identify with a specific social group. Or you want companionship because you want to belong to a group, because you don't want to be lonely. You don't want to be considered as a lone ranger. So both of them are true. Both of them are true, actually. You can treat them as independent points.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you take a look at some of those other questions. Oh, Caroline is here. I think we lost you, Caroline, when we were on discussion.
You are now unmuted.
Yes, there was a problem with my network. but now it's okay.
Yeah, so we actually wanted you to tell us about how the second point comes about, disadvantages of group decision making. That some members can dominate. How do they dominate?
You are now unmuted.
According to how I understand, you find that in terms of dominating, like there's some people who feel they are entitled to everybody's opinion, like it's their opinion which has the final say compared to others. So it's like the, how do I say, top dog of the group. Without them, there's no group. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, they always want. Yeah, it's true. There are people. Sometimes in groups you find that there are a group of people who just they feel that other people's contribution do not make sense, but only theirs. So they tend to want to dominate the proceedings from the start to the finish, and that is very true. That's one disadvantage. So they come and domineer, put their thoughts, but ignore the thoughts of others. How is it expensive to manage a group? How is it expensive? Jen Sarah, tell us. How is it expensive to manage a group? Jen Sarah, we're asking, how is it expensive to manage a group?
Hello. I think like when in a group, like there are many things that are needed, like maybe writing and also maybe other tickets. So it becomes like expensive because so much money is spent.
Yes, very true. You know, you give a sitting allowance. Sometimes they want a venue to meet, and you have to hire a venue for them. Sometimes you have to cater for their maybe refreshment. You pay their sitting allowances. Of course, there are those stationaries that you're talking about. So all this contributes to an expense. And of course, the fact that it takes time to come up with a decision, so you might require that the group have several meetings, which each and every time will cost to host the meeting. So that's very true. Caroline, how is it risky? How are such decisions risky? We are told that the decisions may be risky because nobody will be held responsible. What kind of risky decisions? And how risky are such decisions?
You are now unmuted.
I'll say risky in terms of sometimes when we make decisions, we are, how can I say, biased. So you find that when we make a certain decision, we only think about that particular time. A good example is, let's say we had a group before the pandemic, coronavirus. Now we only made the decisions as per the moment, as per the environment at that time. Now we have a pandemic and we already made that decision. You see, it's kind of risky because we did not forecast. Instead of, let's say it was a chama, maybe we said everybody to remove 500 shillings and we made that decision. But now there is pandemic, people lost their jobs, it's now, and we already made that decision. what will happen to the members of the group who cannot be able to afford that money since they don't have any job? Yeah.
Very true. Very true. Sometimes one thing that uh, group decision makers normally they have the feeling of security in numbers. One may not be pinpointed that he was the mastermind of the decision. So what you're saying is very true, because you can reach a decision which eventually affect people, and no one will want to take responsibility. They'll refer you to the committee. The committee decided. The group decided. So no one wants to take responsibility, even if the decision is detrimental or affect the entire organization. But no one wants to own it up. So that's one very important point, or the one risky thing about group decision making. Point 5, which says that it may lead to a premature decision being implemented. Yeah, sometimes because of being in a hurry to come up with a decision, sometimes you might find that it's not well thought of. And also maybe it is majority wants it. Sometimes they end up voting for a decision that how many are for this thing to be implemented, how many are for not for it. If majority say they want it, then minority point of view cannot be taken into consideration. That is also another disadvantage, actually, where minorities' rights are sometimes stepped on. You find that it's only the majority that gets their way. So that's another reason for another disadvantage of group decision making. So good. So I have several questions. Some of them I've placed there for you on the public chat. This explain the meaning of the term group as used in human relation. Then explain 5 factors that may enhance group formation. That is, I think we have discussed that on the notes. So is a question for revision. Now I'll give you one to discuss together before you leave. Just one, or only one. Then the rest I'll put on the portal for you as a quiz so that you use as revision questions. So let me get that one. Look at it. It's related to what we have just discussed. It's just only twisted a little bit. I want you to discuss that one. So you can contribute forthwith. You can share your contribution, each of you, as you discuss that one question. I hope you are seeing it. Explain 4 reasons that make it necessary to use group when solving a problem. So look at it. Look at it, unmute, and talk to one another as you discuss.
You are now unmuted.
Hello, Shiro. Shiro.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Leo umechelewa wapi?
Actually sijui ni shida ya network. Juu nilijaribu kujoin kutoka saa 5 nikashindwa.
Oh. Anyway, to discuss hii swali tumalizane nayo. Explain 4 reasons that make it necessary to use a group when solving a problem.
I think one of the reasons he increases the number of solutions because everyone is giving their solution kind of.
I can say because it helps one achieve their goals, because in order for a group to be formed, you have to have agenda, so everybody is focused on achieving that group goals. Hello, umesikia kenye nimesema? Umesikia kenye nimesema? Oh yeah, like chama. If you want to start a business, you can use chama, because everybody will be focusing on the same agenda like yours.
Yeah, correct.
Another reason,
kuna also increased understanding.
You know, the reason that make it necessary to use a group when solving a problem.
Yeah, inasaidia ku understand each other.
Oh, kwa sababu kila mtu ama kuna hii ingine ya you have nimesahau, is it the same environment? Ama point inaitangwaje? Ni the same kweli?
Ati gani?
Kuna hii ingine, okay, sawa, nimesahau, siko sure.
Sawa.
Sijui inakuanga something like sure, tuachane tunayo. Something na environment. Tunaweza sema high commitment, like higher commitment. Okay, for example, like I said, in order to form a group, you have to have a specific agenda. So if the agenda is to solve that problem, we'll have a higher commitment, because everybody in that group is committed to something. In order you join a group, you have to be committed to something, so it leads to higher commitment, because you can't any group una joiningi lazima ukwe willing to commit, like attending the meetings and everything. So if you use a group to solve a problem, you are sure to have high commitment, because people will show up and discuss ways on how to maybe to solve that issue.
Yes.
So ulisema ya increase number of solutions. Na alafu kasema better understanding.
Yes.
Better understanding na better thinking ni point moja.
Actually sidhani. Because one you are thinking like yenye ina come from you. when solving a solution, alafu understanding is what you get.
Maybe then ukweli
Mm.
ziko different kwa sababu better thinking, kila mtu anafikiria kivyake, so unapata ideas are wengi.
Yeah.
Problem shared is half solved. So better thinking. Yeah, I think tumemaliza hizo points, ndio.
Tuko na
Uko na
mingi.
ingine? Uko na ingine? Ongeza tu.
Sina.
I mean, maybe internet. Better communication.
Aha. Napata kuna maswali zingine.
Kwa sioni kwa public chat.
Kwa screen share. Umeziona?
Hizi ndio saa tushata post kwa portal ama ni za kudiscuss?
I think tunafaa to discuss
Penye saa tutachia ndio itaenda kwa portal ama zote zitaenda?
maybe zitaenda zote. For sure.
Okay, Sha, are we discussing the question which you have posted on the screen?
You can look at them, but I'll still post them. If you want to look at them now, but I still post them, okay?
Okay.
Right. Now, is there any question regarding that topic that you may have, maybe different from these ones, or any issue? Okay. If there is
No.
Okay, no. Right. Next week, this is what I'll give you a full paper to do. Are we together? Next week, I'll give you a full paper.
We're now unmuted.
Cut or like for discussion?
An exam.
An exam?
Yeah.
Oh.
What do you think? What I'll do with it is this. It will be more than, I think, 2.5 hours. And you see, like a question like this, your paper normally have section 1 and section 2. And from the section 1 is normally 40 marks. And consists of questions like this one here. You see this one, number 4. Let me just highlight it. This question. Like that one I've highlighted. They're like that. Like this one here. They are short questions where you just write the points. Then section 2 consists of a question like this, explaining. So I want to give you to test yourself on a full paper. Now, I won't give multiple choices. What do you think? You like multiple choice?
Yes.
Now unmuted.
You want multiple choice?
Yes.
Oh, they are difficult to set. I thought this kind are easier to handle. But maybe I can throw 1 or 2 multiple choices. But what I want, the objective, I want you to have an experience of a full paper, how it might look like. And done during the class time. Are we together?
You are
Yes.
now unmuted.
Yes.
Right. So I'll post it. You'll find I'll post it on just before topic 1, so you can easily access it. I'll post it there. So when you come, I'll enable it from, I think from 11. But throughout, I'll enable it for the 3 hours. So anytime you join from 11, you can access it and do it. And to just consist of some of the things that we have done. Maybe perhaps some of these questions, yeah, like these ones that you are answering here, you might find them. It won't be so many, maybe a few new ones, like maybe twisted ones like this one. But more or less everything that we have touched on. Right. Good. So I think we are well to do. In case of any issue, any problem, you can share with me. Let me just post these ones on a quiz on topic 7 so that you can actually attempt them from there. But if you want to, you do still want to share on this conference, can give you a few minutes to say hi to one another, and then I'll post them for you to look at them. Right, so I'm giving you a few minutes for discussion and sharing.
Hello, teacher. I have a question.
Hi. I think we can now close it. And we can now close it, and I'll post the questions plus other questions on the portal on topic 7, which you can attempt at your free time.
Excuse me, teacher.
Yes?
Oh, I have a question. It's not like specifically about this unit.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the sales and marketing,
Yeah.
some questions like are overdue.
Uh-huh.
If I attempt them, if I post, will you still mark them, or is it already too late?
Yeah, just post them. I'll mark them. I'll mark them. There is no problem. Just post them.
Also, you will get to see them.
Yeah, when you do them, you complete them, I'll get them, I'll mark them.
Okay.
Right. So just post them, I'll be able to mark them, and it's okay. For the one that I've restricted, that you realize that there's no time restriction on them. So you, or in case you have noticed a time restriction, then you can tell me, I unlock. But should you have any problem accessing them, you need to tell me about it. But if you can access them, just do them and post them, and I'll be able to mark.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
You are currently the only person in this conference.